The San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy have agreed on a 5-year, $265 million extension before training camp. Stick around. We're going to talk about all that and more. Leave a like on this video. Welcome, everybody. Let's go Niners. My name is Jason Aponte. I'm Jason Aponte. This is 49ers Talk Instant Reaction. The 49ers and Brock Purdy have agreed to a 5-year, $265 million contract extension per year. It has Brock Purdy at $53 million, tied with the same amount as Jared Goff, less than Tua Tagovailoa, less than Trevor Lawrence, less than Jordan Love, and then Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and Dak Prescott, who round out the top three. I am ecstatic right now. Again, this was always going to be the range that he was going to be in. This is the going rate for people that were counting beans and trying to count the numbers and trying to think that any sort of increase from 53 to 55 would mean that the team couldn't employ people in the stadium and they wouldn't even be able to serve refreshments. This is fine. This is a fine deal right away. And it's good to have it right there so nobody can complain about, well, this guy got more. It doesn't matter. Brock never struck me as the type that would go to push above other people. He got what he felt was fairly owned. And more importantly, this is done before training camp. No issues, no sort of haggling and going back and forth. We can get into this offseason program. We want to see steps from all these receivers, and we want to see steps from this offense and the importance of this team starting fresh and fast right away. No sort of acclimation period, no holdouts, no distractions. Purdy gets to throw to Ricky Pearsall, can help develop Jacob Cowan, build more rapport with Juwan Jennings, learn the offense even better and take steps to get better. Everyone is locked in. Once you lock in Fred Warner, that's it. It's done deal for everybody. But I feel great about this. This is a perfect deal for both sides. Brock Purdy gets what he's deserved, and the 49ers give him a deal that isn't going to destroy them financially down the line. And for everybody that's in here, guys, leave a like on this video. I'm excited. You guys should be as well. But the overarching theme of all this is the 49ers and Brock Purdy get to just operate normally this offseason. Everyone's going to be at camp. Everyone's going to be at these offseason, mini camps, whatever it is. It's a great thing. And this team, when we're looking at the schedule and we're looking how quickly they can start, I outlined it last night with Rob, was they could start out 4-0. But the way that you start out fast is you have a offseason with no issues and you have everybody in tow, ready to go. It is so good to watch the 49ers say, listen, we're not going to mess around with this anymore, because when they have, and they've waited around for Nick Bosa and Brandon Ayuk, they wind up overpaying. Now, this isn't an overpay. This is you meeting in the middle. I'm sure Brock Purdy and his people started at about 55, 56, but meeting in the middle at 53 per year is just good negotiation. So it's done. It is done. And that's the best part, is everything can move and operate normally. And we don't have to worry about a drama-filled offseason. It's May 16th. Lock in Fred Warner. All of the rookies are signed. Everybody's got their extension. Kittle, Brock, and then Warner. Once that's done, Ayuk will be on his way back. You figure out something with Juwan Jennings, who will be a free agent next year, who probably is going to get a bag thrown at him. Maybe that's the only other thing that you can look at right now. But other than that, this offseason is going as smoothly, a little too smooth, almost. A little too smooth. Like, it almost feels like, when's the rug going to get pulled out from under us? So I love this. And this is a great thing for the 49ers. It's a great thing for the team. And it's a great thing for a team that desperately needs to start fast. No acclimation period. No sort of time where you're just like, oh, they'll figure it out in the first few weeks. No, you get the ball rolling now. You hit the ground running when week 1 starts. You start fast. And that way, when you start fast, you don't have to dig yourself out of a hole or any sort of unforeseen circumstances, whether it be injury or poor play or just, poor execution in certain games. You don't have to be perfect all the way through the season if you start fast. You don't just lose everything, but it's far easier, and this is not rocket science that I'm dropping here. It's far easier to be 4-0 to start a season and then navigate from there with the last 13 games than it is to be 1-3 and try to fight the entire time and try to get yourself back there. So it's important. And I think the 49ers understand the gravity of this season in this retooling period, which is why they were more inclined to go ahead and get this done early, because they want everybody to be there. They want everyone to start getting acclimated. If you're looking for jumps from Ricky Pearsall, if you're hoping for a jump from Jacob Cowing, if you want to see this offense gel more, because there is going to be a different version of it, a little bit more evolved, I think, in different ways, whether it's running the football or throwing the football, as last year you saw them throw the football a lot more. But if you want to see these steps and you want to see that rapport build, you've got to do it right from the beginning. So it doesn't have to be throwing sessions that are not at the building. It'll be all organized. Everything will be there. Everything is falling into place for a successful offseason. And I don't know when's the last time 49er fans can say that, and how good it feels, and how it feels to be like other franchises where, hey, their contracts are done. We're just rolling. And now the 49ers get to do that as well, too. So shout out to everybody in here. Again, if you're here, please just drop a like. That helps us out a ton with the channel as well, and for growth. Brock Purdy, 5 years, $265 million extension, $53 million per year, puts him tied for 7th with Jared Goff. Top 10 quarterback sometimes, top 10 money, right? And I think, again, this all boils down to just how the 49ers feel about him. And there was never a chance that this was ever going to be, something that's haggled along or just stretched itself out. It's just, again, the way that the 49ers handled this, and they handled it very quickly, is very, 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 is very good to see. That's what I wanted to say. Let's see. Cordless whispers off Kyle's playbook. Guess those checks cleared from the new partial owners. That's funny, right? Like, because that was and thank you for the comment, bro. That was part of, oh, well, is this going to help clear the money for Brock Purdy? Did it? I don't know, but the timing of it has to be at least talked about, right? And I think that's an interesting way to look at it, is when you start to sell out the team and all of a sudden the 49ers are the highest valued franchise and all that stuff. I mean, again, I'm not too certain of the numbers. I think the Golden State Warriors are worth a little bit more in the Bay Area, but that is really interesting. Like, whether or not that is true, I don't know. But how could you not speculate on the selling off of the team, to partial owners, and then all of a sudden the money clearing, and all of a sudden the next day, boom, Brock Purdy's under contract. We're doing tinfoil hats. We're doing tinfoil hats with this one. It's something that doesn't need to get to. We don't need to get to the bottom of it, but it's certainly interesting, especially given the timeline and the timing. So how could you not speculate that had something to do with this? So good call for sure. Careless Whispers of Kyle's Playbook. I like that name too. So, let's see. The Niners are the proud owner of the worst contract in NFL history, paying a average quarterback elite money. I don't know. I don't know if he's average. I think he's good to great. I think he's better than Tua. I think he's better than Trevor Lawrence. I think he's better than Dak Prescott. Those guys get paid far more. Those contracts are gross. If you're the Jaguars, you're hoping that Liam Cohen can resuscitate Trevor Lawrence, but for the large part, he's not the golden child. He's not the chosen one. Tua, that's a lot of money for a guy who can't even stay on the field. And even when he is, he's largely a distributor of the football, a point guard, which, again, that's not a knock on him, but he's not somebody who's going to lift them. And then when you consider the fact that he can't win games that are under 65 degrees, that contract looks gross. Don't even get me started on Dak Prescott. I mean, I don't think anybody really considers him one of those guys as well, too. So I don't know. I think Dominican Niners, and shout out to you, man. You're a channel member and everything. I appreciate you. But yeah, I think that's a little harsh. That's a little harsh, especially when you consider all the guys with money ahead of him that probably didn't deserve that. And again, the quarterback market and what the going rate for a quarterback is due to teams being afraid of the unknown. When Tua Tagovailoa comes into Miami's office and says, I want $56 or $55 million a year, Miami thinks, oh my God, we have to pay him because what's our alternative? And it was only going to take one franchise to stop that market from inflating. But how do you do that? Could Miami say, you know what, Tua, we don't care. I don't want that. We don't want that contract. That's too much. Go find it somewhere else and then do whatever it is. You know what? Skylar Thompson's your starter. I get that. But it was going to take one franchise to say, no, you're not worth that money. But who is it going to be? And the fear of the unknown at quarterback has put people in a position to just pay quarterbacks just because they're scared of what it possibly could look like without. So I don't know. It's tough because I don't know if I would have the stones as a front office guy. Like if I was the general manager to say, yeah, you know what, Tua, get out. We're going to roll with Skylar Thompson. No, because your season's tanked. But it's hard. It would take one franchise to say, nope, we're stopping this. But when you don't do that and everyone caves to what the market is, the market inflates itself. Because everybody comes in and says, well, wait a minute, that guy got paid that amount of money. I've done more than that guy, and he deserves that money, so I deserve that money. That's what it is comparing all that stuff. So, I mean, again, it is what it is. The 49ers, I feel like, got a good deal. It's not something where it's crippling. The cap is going up. I'm certain that this extension also clears more cap space down the line for next year at least, or this year itself. So could the 49ers be open to some free agent moves? Who knows? But this was it's market rate. Like, this is what it is. This is market rate. And again, this contract isn't going to cost them Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. It's not going to cost them any of those guys. And the way that they've retooled this roster through the draft is all cheap young talent. So this is not crippling. This is the going rate. This is fine. This is fine. I'm fine with this. Again, let's see. Kremlin Agent 47 win the Super Bowl. Yeah, well, 31 other teams don't win the Super Bowl. I want to, you know what? Let's pivot the conversation here. I think we all agree that there are 4 elite quarterbacks in the NFL, right? 4. Mahomes, Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. And then, however you feel, 5 through 12, right? Which of the 4 elite quarterbacks have a Super Bowl victory? I'll wait. Okay. So the Bills have an elite quarterback. They don't win Super Bowls. The Bengals have an elite quarterback. They don't win Super Bowls. The Ravens have a 2-time MVP. They don't win Super Bowls. So all of those teams have something that's an advantage, but they still can't win. And everyone else in between after is just jockeying for position. And there's only one team that can win the Super Bowl. That's not fair. That's not fair. That's not fair. If you're going to shit on Brock for not winning the Super Bowl, then shit on Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. Keep the same energy. No doubt those guys are elite. No doubt. But they've never won a Super Bowl. Shit on them too. Shit on every other quarterback that hasn't won one either. Because the only guys that win Super Bowls are Patrick Mahomes and now Jalen Hurts. That means 30 other quarterbacks haven't won Super Bowl. Well, Matthew Stafford won one. There you go. But I don't understand this rush to shit on Brock for not winning a Super Bowl when I think the world of Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. I think they're absolutely elite. They've never won a Super Bowl. Why not the same energy towards them? And they're better than Brock. The problem is, and the problem will continue to be this. As long as Brock Purdy is someone who isn't viewed as someone with elite physical traits, who wasn't a first-round pick, who was the last pick, who is easy to pick apart because of his draftism, he will always be subject to that sort of criticism. While the guys who are elite, Joe Burrow's the number 1 pick. Lamar Jackson got it out the mud because everybody didn't want him to be a quarterback. Josh Allen was a project that worked. Those guys will not get any of the criticism that Brock gets, and they will continue to be viewed through a lens of them being elite, which is fair. But if you're going to shit on Brock for not winning a Super Bowl, shit on the other 29 quarterbacks who haven't gotten the job done, because the 3 are Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford, and Patrick Mahomes. I just don't get that part. That part will never make sense to me. What's the point of having those elite guys if you can't get it done? And then no one throws the same criticisms at him or them than they do at Brock. It's weird. It's real weird to me. Only one team wins the Super Bowl every year. So the 31 other teams, they didn't win a Super Bowl that year. The team that was there didn't win the Super Bowl. The other team won. Strange to me. Strange. Again, those 4 guys are elite. The other 28 teams are trying to find ways to win Super Bowls without elite quarterbacks. That includes the Philadelphia Eagles. Jalen Hurts is not an elite quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. And what they've got going over there is great. And they've won a Super Bowl. And they've been to 2. But 28 other teams are trying to figure out how to win Super Bowls without an elite guy. And even the teams with the elite guys aren't winning them either. I don't see how Brock gets that sort of criticism at him. Throw it at everybody else too. Shout out to everybody in here. Over 16 minutes. Make sure you guys give this a like. If you're new here, please subscribe to the content if you like it. Appreciate you guys so much. Again, Brock Purdy and the 49ers agreed to a 5-year, $265 million extension. If I'm not mistaken, 181 guaranteed, $53 million a year. Let's see. Jason, Allen, Lamar, Burrow have to go through Mahomes. Okay, well, Allen and Lamar, they eliminate each other. So they all have to go through each other. But that's fine. Only one of them has won. Only one of them has won. Burrow has beaten him once and then lost. Again, 4 elite guys, 1 wins the Super Bowl, and then Buffalo eliminates Baltimore. And then Buffalo gets eliminated by Kansas City. It doesn't matter. No matter how you slice it, those 4 elite guys who happen to all be in the AFC, only one of them continues to go to the Super Bowl. So if you're going to use that logic, I would use this one. Allen and Lamar and Burrow have to go through Mahomes. Brock had to go through Mahomes in the Super Bowl. He left the field with leads in those times. I don't see how that is that isn't in no way a way to paint a picture of why we should give Lamar and Burrow and Allen a pass. Burrow beat him, lost in the Super Bowl. Josh beats Lamar, Josh loses to Mahomes. It's not my fault that they're all in the AFC, but why is it that the same guy every single year is the one that ends up going? I don't know. But either way, if you're going to give that qualifier of, Lamar and Josh and Burrow have to go through Mahomes, Brock had to go through Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And what happened? We all know what happened. Jimmy Garoppolo had to go through the Patrick Mahomes and the 40. And what happened? So it seems like teams are having, not just the 49ers, teams other than the Eagles and the Bengals are having a tough time knocking off the Chiefs. And why is that? They're very well-rounded. They have great coordinators. They have a great coach. They have a quarterback that, you probably would like to have with the ball in his hands. So I don't like that excuse that they have to go through Mahomes. Everyone does. Jalen Hurts finished the job. Joe Burrow did. But Brock couldn't. Jalen Hurts couldn't before. Jimmy couldn't before. Tom Brady was the only other one that beat him in a Super Bowl. Seems like a lot of people are having a tough time beating Patrick Mahomes. But if you're one of those 4 elite guys and the Ravens, run through everybody, I can't give you that excuse because you wouldn't give Brock that same excuse in the Super Bowl. So regardless of all that, I think what we're talking about here is just how early this is done. And I think the best thing is the way that this offseason is about to go, everyone is going to be in mini camp and OTAs, and there's going to be no sort of hiccups and everyone's going to hit the ground running and everyone is going to be there. There's going to be no holdouts. I would expect Fred Warner to be done sooner than later. Even if it's not going into training camp, Fred's not going to hold out. And this just signals, in my opinion, the 49ers understanding what exactly they need to do and what's at stake this season. There cannot be any hiccups to start the season. Your schedule's soft. Everyone's crying about the 49ers schedule being soft. Everybody's crying about that, right? Well, fine. Take advantage and start right away. You can start the season undefeated, 3-1. That is far easier for the slip-ups and ups and downs of the season. But I think it's important to understand that the 49ers are looking at things different. Shout out to Hugh Wilkins, subscriber. He says, does Jennings get a new deal? That's very interesting because it seems like two players are destined to hit the market next year and get overpaid. Now, cover your ears, 49ers fans. You're not going to like one of these names. But Colin McKivitz is going to get thrown a bag next year unless he completely falls off a cliff because offensive linemen get overpaid. Just ask Aaron Banks. Now, Juwan Jennings, following a season in which, for all intents and purposes, he had 1,000 yards. I'd like to, obviously the ejection in the last game stops that. But people are going to line up to pay Juwan Jennings. The 49ers have an interesting discussion on their hands. We have Ricky Pearsall. We have Jacob Cowing. We have Brandon Ayuk moving forward. We drafted Jordan Watkins. What is he? You bring in Demarcus Robinson. You bringing in Gabe Davis. Whatever. I don't really care about that. But do the 49ers feel that they can move into next season without Juwan Jennings based on the players that they've developed and drafted and feel good about that? Or is Juwan Jennings so important to the identity of this team, his clutchness on third down? I think that is such an interesting discussion. I think they've had internal discussions right now, I'm sure, about Juwan Jennings and about, what do we do? Because if you let him hit the open market, someone's going to overpay him. Not overpay him, but give him money that, will make sure that they get the deal signed. I don't want to say overpay. Let me reel that back because then that implies that he doesn't deserve that money. I think he proved this year without a shadow of a doubt that he is one of the most underrated players in the league. But it's going to be interesting because the 49ers have to figure out, are we going to match what can happen on the open market? Because teams are going to throw, the bag at him. Or do we get this done now before all of that and make sure that we bring him in? I think it all depends on how the 49ers value him and their confidence in the players that they've brought in through the rookies, whether it's Cowing and it's Pearsall and it's Watkins. What does that development look like? Now, the other part of this is if you allow this to play out during the season, you're playing a dangerous game because if Juwan Jennings balls out again this year, right, and goes into 1,000 yards and is just that clutch money guy on third down from the X position, while Brandon Ayuk's coming back, and then even when Ayuk comes back, he's still a vital role. Still has a vital role in this offense. Then that money increases, right? So I think it goes back to why we're so excited about this deal and about getting it done early is now you don't have to worry about competing with other offers. But it's a fine line the 49ers are going to have to walk here because if he goes out there and he puts up another great season, his bag inflates. And does that put you now out of a position where you can even compete for that offer? Or do you come to him maybe during the season? They've done it before with Diamador Lenore, kind of just quietly brought him in and said, listen, sign this deal. They did it with Dre Greenlaw, which looked like a steal. Do they do something like that? I think that's an interesting part. But I do wonder if the 49ers are going to go into this thinking we have pieces that can supplant Juwan Jennings based on who we've drafted, i.e. Pearsall and, Jordan Watkins and Jacob Cowing. And, perhaps we can piece it together with veteran receivers and things like that. Or is he so important to what they do and that attitude and that edge that he gives this offense that he plays with? I wonder what that'll look like. And I think that's the interesting discussion. Did I answer the question? Probably not. But I think that's the way that you have to be looking at it is, do the 49ers value him in that way where they get this done early? And if the 49ers play the waiting game and he has another great season, he's going to price himself out of San Francisco, rightfully so, because he's a good wide receiver. Thanks for the comment, Hugh. I'm sorry if that was long-winded and I didn't, really get to anything. But shout out to everybody in here. 25 minutes. Make sure you guys drop a like on this. Instant reaction. Brock Purdy, 5 years, $265 million, $53 million a year, tied for 7th in the NFL with Jared Goff, behind Tua Tagovailoa, behind Trevor Lawrence. It's a beautiful day. The contract feels good for both sides. Feels like we'd have to wait for the full contract details in terms of, are there outs? What does this structurally look like? Is it front loaded? Is it back loaded? Right now, we're just going off total value, which isn't the way that we should be at this point, probably making, huge proclamations about. It's more about right now, when you find out what that contract looks like and what the details are, and is it front loaded? Is it back loaded? Where are the outs, right? If there are any, right? I think that'll be kind of telling, because if there's a contract that you have that is 5 years, but there's no outs, then that shows you that the 49ers are really, really convicted in Brock Purdy. But if the 49ers have some outs in there, is there a little bit of, hey, we just want to make sure we give ourselves some wiggle room? We don't know what's going on. Right now, I don't know. I can't speculate. But when we learn the details, we'll learn the total value of this contract. We'll learn really, where it's at. But again, it's right now, it's just a good feeling all around. The offseason is without drama. There's not going to be any holdover into training camp. Sign Fred Warner, get it done, get this rolling, get him throwing the football to the guys that you need to take a leap, i.e. Pearsall and Cowing, and just get the guys together and get them rolling. Trent Williams show up. I think, again, I talked about this yesterday. I think that Trent gave them the I'm coming back, go ahead. And that's why they said, okay, we don't need to sign DJ Humphries. I think that was them, hedging a little bit. And then Andre Dillard and that other guy from Tennessee, they're awful. And they could just be cut in camp. They are very bad. I don't know if you guys watched them play the last few years, but they are poor. Ask a Tennessee Titans fan about either of them, and they won't have many nice things to say. So you get Trent back. McCaffrey's going to be healthy for all intents and purposes and be working the entire offseason. Kittle's back. We'll find out when we get Ayuk back. What's the leap look like from Pearsall and Cowing? You get Fred Warner done. You have all these draft picks that are going to be day one starters on defense. Robert Saleh's back. The vibes are up. The vibes are up right now, and they feel good. Now, does this translate to wins? We're going to find out. But the vibes are up. Like, if you're asking for things that are like best case scenario, how is this not? Contract's not crippling. It's going rate. I think that he's better than some of the guys that are getting paid higher than him. He's certainly better than Tua Tagovailoa. Is he better than Jared Goff? Today, I'd say yeah. I even say he's better than Dak. But the 49ers right now are just, everything that they're doing is, it's drama-free. There's no issues. There's going to be no sort of contract disputes, no holdouts, nothing like that. And the team is going to be back with as many of their healthy parts as they have. Obviously, losing Dre Greenlaw, losing Hufanga, losing all those guys, it doesn't make you feel great. But then when you see the draft and you see the vision and you believe in Robert Saleh and what they're doing, and then, you see how quickly they're moving to get this done, these contracts done, it's because the 49ers understand what this season means and what they need to do, which is they need to start fast. And there can't be any excuses. So it's really interesting to see the shift in dynamic. And I think the shift is caused by last year. 6-11. They know they cannot afford to have another season like that. They're going through a retooling phase. They have named the Los Angeles Rams and Buffalo Bills, who have done similar retoolings and continued to win. Now, again, Matthew Stafford and Josh Allen are their quarterbacks, but John Lynch has been on record saying that those are the blueprints for how they want to do this. They cannot afford to start slow. They cannot afford to have a losing season. The seat just gets hotter. The talk only gets louder if this team goes out there and they throw up another 6-11 season, especially given this schedule, and especially given how talented this team is when they're fully healthy. Now, again, Are they going to be fully healthy? We don't know, right? You have to plan for whatever, right? Like almost like Murphy's Law, whatever can go wrong, plan that way, right? Whatever you think is the worst is never going to be that bad, but you can't just hope for everything to be fine. And I think that's something that I've criticized the 49ers for when they said we weren't looking for starters in the draft because players never get hurt. Players never fall off. I don't understand that thought process. It's poor process. You should always be looking for starters. And if you have a player behind a player who's a starter, that's a good thing to have. But when you're just trying to fill spots because you feel like, yeah, nobody's ever going to get hurt, everything's going to be fine next year. No, that's not the way you do things. And that's not the way a lot of the teams that have been at the top of the league, i.e. the Eagles, have thought. They don't think that way. They draft the best players and they continue to bring them in. If you got to sit because you're behind somebody who's really good, okay. But if that player gets hurt, we've got a very good football player that's ready to step in. That always has to be the way that you're looking at it. So I've criticized them. I've been on the record with that. It never made sense to me. And that kind of put the 49ers in the spot that they're in right now, where, hey, we have all our starters. We're fine. We don't need to draft for starters. No, that's silly. That's silly. Doesn't make sense. It's poor process. That's why you don't draft kickers and stuff like that. You draft football players. And again, so they meant immediate starters. That's fine. But they're also not thinking forward and ahead. What if that immediate starter has a bad season? What if that immediate starter gets hurt? Why wouldn't you look to fill positions with players who could be starters right off the rip, but are good depth? When you draft good players and you draft for starters, your depth gets better. That's the point. Doesn't have to be somebody who starts right away. But the idea that you can just kick away draft picks on Cam Latu and this guy and that guy because we don't need starters is how you end up with these guys not being on the roster. And it's just poor process. It is poor process. If that player has to sit because they're behind someone, good. That means if, God forbid, something happens to that player, you have a good player who's ready to step in and is young and is cheap. Never understood that. Shout out to everybody in here, 32 minutes in. Guys, if you're here, leave a like. Again, the 49ers and Brock Purdy agreed to a 5-year, $265 million extension, $53 million a year, 7th in the NFL, tied with Jared Goff. It just feels good right now because it's all done and everything's moving in the right direction. So, look, if we're looking at everything going into this season, it's really important that the 49ers have a very good season. Otherwise, the talk around John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan gets louder. So they're inclined to get this done. We need you at OTA. We need you at minicamp because we need to get rolling right away. Pair that with the schedule. Pair that with how easy that schedule looks and how, easy is relative based on the fact that it's May 16th and we don't know what teams are going to look like. But yeah, if you're just going off of strength of schedule, how teams looked last year, you have to feel like you're going to have a really good chance of starting fast and then finishing even better when you see the back end of that schedule. So it's important. Get everybody in. And I always believed that Brock was going to be a guy that wanted to get this done and never wanted to be in any sort of long-term training camp thing. He wants to be with the guys. What made me believe that is just, I guess, the way that he speaks and carries himself and vibes. But I never believed that he would be somebody who would hold out, who would make this bigger than it was. So you get to a place where how much money is enough? Brock said, that's enough. I'm good. I don't need to jump other people. I'm fine with this number. It's a little selfless because he could look and say, I'm better than Tua. I need more than him. Who would blame him? I'm better than Lawrence. Look what I've done. Who would blame him? But he didn't. And he took what he felt like he was deserved. And I'm not sure if that's because he believes that the wiggle room, and again, we have to find out the full contract details before we can really fully assess what this looks like. But I'm not sure if maybe that's leaving a window open to sign more free agents, different players, keep players on extensions. We don't know what this is going to look like structurally yet. We just know the dollar amount. We know the annual average value, and we know how many years it's going to be. We don't know how is it front loaded? Is it back loaded? Where are the outs? When do the guarantees toll? All those things. I think that's going to tell a far bigger story than this first initial, number right here, because there's going to be sweeping statements right off the bat. How could you pay him $265 million? How could you pay him $53 million a year? Well, let's see how it's structurally done. Because if it's backloaded and there's outs before the money gets big, the 49ers get a good look at him and see what they could possibly be paying for. I don't know. We don't know yet. And I think that's going to be the bigger test, is trying to figure that part out. But I'm going to get out of here, guys. 35 minutes again. Thank you so much. We have 85 people in here. Again, like this video. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'm fairly certain that I'm going to be back tonight if the contract details are out to talk, and I'll probably have a few guests. So tap into that as well. So you want to hit that notification bell as well too. But thank you guys for joining. Brock Purdy, again, 5 years, $265 million, $53 million a year. Got to wait for the contract to actually be broken down. But all is right in 49ers land going through this offseason, which is something that 49er fans can't say all the time. I'm Jason Aponte, and as always, let's go Niners. Welcome, everybody. Let's go Niners. My name is Jason Aponte.